We're here at the VMware Public Sector Innovation Summit with Gerald Caron, CIO in the Office of the Inspector General at HHS. Gerald, it's always a pleasure to chat with you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start our conversation today talking about how your agency's constituents are benefiting from the adoption of multi-cloud IT strategy.
So definitely we have a multi-cloud, I call it the ecosystem basically. So we're taking advantage of some best-of-breed clouds and we're scoping those for the needs that we have in our modernization efforts. So our ecosystem strategy is going to be how we broker the requirements and what clouds we use for that. There is some duplicity, so to speak, in a couple of the clouds that we have, but that's great because then we don't get locked in. We can move seamlessly between clouds, and that's something that we want our ecosystem to do overall, is have data interoperability. And I don't want my users to care about the platform or that they're on. I want them to be able to do what they need to do. So we'll use the best cloud possible for that, but we hope that they have a seamless experience and not care that they're on this, that we're using this platform for that. Just want them to be able to get the data and the functionality that they need to make their job more efficient, which is a great thing about the cloud. And the advantage that we're taking is, how do you want to work? Not how do you work, but how do you want to work? Because I think historically, with some of the legacy solutions that we have, they've adopted them rather than the tools adopt their processes. So we want them to work, the solutions to work for them not work for the solutions.
What about security? How do you see public sector agencies taking more innovative approaches to cybersecurity and data protection in 2022?
Well, there's this thing called Zero Trust, of course. We have the EO and we have OMB, Memo 22-09 talks about Zero Trust. Zero Trust has a big focus on protecting data. So understanding your data, where's your data, who's accessing that data, who needs that data, does that data have integrity so people can rely on it? All those great things. It's very important. I think the innovation comes in how you adopt some of your solutions that you may already have to include cloud capabilities to build into that Zero Trust architecture, as well as partnering with the vendors and the rest of the community and the federal government on how to go about implementing Zero Trust.
Let's talk about talent for a question. How do you see digital workforce enablement helping agencies improve how they attract and retain skilled employees?
It's challenging. Definitely got to skill up on some of these new areas. People that can stay up with the innovations, because IT is constantly changing and the market gets saturated with solutions at times, and trying to sift through all those. But as far as the federal government, sometimes it's difficult to compete with private sector cost-wise, things like that. So we're looking at things, programs that we can introduce, pay scales. Some agencies have what they call a skills incentive program. You get additional pay for certifications and keeping up to date on things that apply to your job. So there's a lot of ways to look at retaining and attracting new talent. But I think you got to have the training there as well for your internal staff, and so that they can keep up. I do a lot of things called innovation technology days, where we look at new arts of the possible, to bring in like a vendor and like where's tech going? What are the new concepts around that? So really making sure that we're keeping our ears and eyes open and learning all the time, because it's ever changing and it's difficult to keep up. But we're looking at a lot of ways, incentives to keep and bring new talent in when we have the availability to do so.
So Jerry, as we close out, agencies had to move rapidly to acquire novel IT solutions during the pandemic. And how do you see those efforts impacting longer-term acquisition reforms?
Yeah, I don't see us ever going back to the way things were before, going into everybody in the office 100% of the time with an anchor under their desk, which I call a desktop. So definitely the way we work is changed. I think we learned about what our new risk tolerances were as a result of deploying new solutions, even for people that were administering the environment of which you were responsible with those privileged accesses. So definitely learning those new risk tolerances. Now we kind of know more of the art of the possible, because we were doing things as like, we'll never do that mobile thing, or that's going to take 2 to 3 years. Well, we did it within the year, or months in some cases. And now that became kind of, I hate the term, but they keep using it, but the new normal, because that's what everybody uses. So it's definitely something that now we know what the art of the possible is. Hey, this actually was not as risky as we initially thought, or we understand the risk now. Now, how can we further build off this and look at the next things? Because now we know, all right, that art of the possible is possible. What's the next step in the art of the possible? So keep looking forward, and people, as they get more comfortable, as they are, they're going to want new ways to do these things. So we're trying to stay ahead of that and adopt our users as part of the team, so we understand it. Like I think I said before, how do you want to work, not how do you work?
Jerry, it's always a pleasure, and once again, thanks for joining us at the Public Sector Innovation Summit.
Thank you for having me. This has been great.